See, the question is what happens to consciousness when we die? Yeah, consciousness has nothing to do with the body. So when the body dies, it really doesn't affect consciousness at all, because consciousness is not a part of the body. Consciousness is not generated by the body. Consciousness is independent of the body. So the body dying has really no effect on consciousness. And to get this idea, let's talk about a virtual reality game. Let's talk about The Sims or the World of Warcraft. And let's say you have an elf playing in the World of Warcraft. What happens? Now, and well, let's go further. The analogy there is you, the person with the computer monitor and the mouse or the joystick, the keyboard that is controlling that elf. You are the consciousness. Okay, you're the consciousness. The elf is the body, your avatar. Now, if you don't give it any input, if you don't tell it what to do or which way to look or whether to walk or sit down or stand still, it doesn't do anything. It just remains however it is and stays there. It becomes inanimate. So it only moves when your will moves it. When you touch a key or push a turn right button or something like that, then your character moves. Well, you're the consciousness. So now here's the question. What happens to you sitting at the keyboard when your elf dies? Nothing. Right? Because you don't have anything to do with the elf's body, with that character. Well, it's the same way. So we say, well, what happens to consciousness when the body dies? Well, it's just like what happens to you sitting at the keyboard when your elf dies. Well, nothing happens to you at all. You're in two different reality frames, and the death of the elf is not pertinent to the death of the person at the keyboard that animates that elf, the death of the consciousness. So to begin with, even the question itself sort of comes with an assumption that somehow consciousness is attached to the body, that consciousness is a creation of the body, and that our brain produces consciousness. And now what happens when the brain dies? You see, that's a problem we have. The brain's going to die, then the consciousness will die, and what happens? Does the consciousness resurrect itself someplace else or what? You see, it's not like that. You don't resurrect yourself, someplace else when your elf dies. You just, shake your head and say, monster got me, and you go regenerate your elf or go do another character or whatever it is you do in the game. It's not really an effective consciousness. So what happens when your elf dies or when your body dies is that you, as consciousness, become aware that you were the elf and you were working that, but suddenly your elf falls over and you come to the conclusion that, you're not in that reality frame anymore. It's like somebody pulls the plug on your monitor, the monitor goes off, and now you're not in that reality frame anymore. You're not playing that character anymore. That's gone. So you become aware in a different reality. Well, if you're playing World of Warcraft, you were so engrossed in the game that all the rest of your reality was blocked out. It was just your mind and your elf. That was all was there. You didn't notice anything else going on because you were so focused on the game. And then your elf dies. Well, suddenly now you're focused back on your computer, on the fact that you're hungry. You go to the refrigerator and get a sandwich. All sorts of other things then start to enter into your mind in this reality frame where you and the keyboard and the computer are. So that's the way it is when your physical body dies here. Your consciousness becomes aware in its own reality frame, and that own reality frame is another virtual reality that is designed or generated, or what can we say, is made for transitions from physical to the non-physical, from consciousness playing a body to consciousness without the body. So it's just a transition place. Pardon?
Necessary. That reality frame evolved, and it was necessary.
Yes, that reality frame evolved because it was necessary, just like our reality frame here in the the physical thing we call physical reality evolved because it was necessary, and so does this other virtual reality that helps the transition when a body dies, because the people here, unlike the player in World of Warcraft, the consciousness there with the keyboard playing the elf, it knows that it is playing the elf and that it is the elf's consciousness and that the elf is just in a virtual reality. It's aware of all that. But here we are, and we're not aware of that because there's a piece of our consciousness that's entered into this game, and it's basically, in the game. It's completely immersed in the game. So because that awareness doesn't know what's going to happen next, it's just a big question mark. When it dies, well, what now? And then, of course, once the body dies and the consciousness becomes aware in this other virtual reality, then it gets its answer to that. So it is another virtual reality that is generated just to serve that purpose. People come in to that other virtual reality after death here very confused sometimes. Now, if they do understand what's going on, they don't come in confused at all. They know exactly what's happening, and their processing in requires almost no attention whatsoever. It's very quick and efficient. However, if they come in with a lot of fear and trepidation, they're not sure what's going to happen next, and so on, then they need some in-processing to help get rid of that fear. Fear's the problem. So this process is primarily designed to help people get rid of the anxiety and the fear and the stress of suddenly becoming aware in a different reality frame.